Hello, everyone.
Hello,
I should
everyone.
probably get in screen, shouldn't I? Look,
How are we all?
always like to start by doing a bit of a tech check. For those of you who know me, you may realise that the technology gods hate me. So hopefully you should be able to find a chat box. If you take your cursor down to the bottom of the screen, you should get a little panel that'll allow you to open a chat box. In that chat box, if you can just let us know that you can see and hear us right now. So just write, or yeah, all good, thank you. Maybe put a yes in, loud and clear, or something that lets us know.
Beautiful.
Great, fantastic. Hey, Rob and Camilla, lovely to see you too. Great, Nigel can see and hear us. Hey, Chris. Sweet. Okay. Dean's given us some little emojis.
Ron Barnes, hello.
All right, that sounds good. Oh, this is great. Sounds like, oh, Lynn, haven't seen you for ages. Okay, yeah, we're all, seems like everything's coming in loud and clear. James can hear us, so that's a good thing as well. Fantastic. Okay, well, I think we can safely say that we're being seen and heard. So let's get started. We've got a lot to be able to cover today. So the reason we wanted to hold this webinar is that we are really aware that these are very stressful times for business owners. And so we wanted to be able to give you some direction in a time that is particularly uncertain. We're not pretending to have all the answers. Now, for those of my clients that are on the call today, you might be thinking, but Kaz, you usually do pretend to have all the answers. In this case, I really can't pretend because no one knows what's to come. Things have become quite grim in the United States and of course in parts of Europe. But you know, the situation that Australia exists in is quite different. We're in a different set of circumstances. We have a different population. I mean, you know, we travel to the States a lot, and one of the things that always sort of blows our minds a little bit is that they're a similar sized country, yet we have what, 30 million and they have 300 million in a similar space. So what Mick and I are operating on at the moment is what we like to call paranoid optimism. So we are preparing for the worst, but expecting the best. And look, I guess at a time when, despite the toilet paper wars, most people are trying to actually look for ways to be able to help each other out. And Mick and I feel very strongly that with our knowledge, with our training, with our skill set, that we want to do whatever we can do right now to help our business owners to be able to deal with this crisis. We're very motivated to do that right now because we can't manufacture toilet paper. Otherwise, probably
provide sage-in advice.
Yeah. So look, we don't have a magic wand. We don't have a money tree. But what we can do is give you some perspective on the information that's coming out and also a bit of a framework that you can be working within right now. Mm-hmm. Look, when we first decided to do this webinar, it was early last week, I think it was. Yeah, we were away in New South Wales at the time. And we decided we would run this webinar. Oh my gosh, so much has changed since then.
To change the whole content.
Absolutely. So whilst, you know, initially we were going to do the 6 things that you need to focus on, we've dropped out apparently. Let's have a look and see what's going on. Back? All right, we're back. See, I told you the technology gods don't like me.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, no, we're still here?
Yeah, good.
Okay, great. Yeah. Thank you very much. All right, so, okay, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, so much has changed. And we were going to focus on the 6 things that you need to be doing in your business right now. But what we've decided, we still want to maybe cover a little bit of that, but I really believe that one thing that people want to know the most about right now is the stimulus package, what it means for you and your business. So we're going to focus a lot on that today. And then we're going to just cover whatever we can from the 6 things you should be focusing on. And we can always do that as another webinar. As you can tell already, I don't mind talking, so I think we can certainly cover it off at a later webinar, whatever we miss. We've had almost 100 people register for today's webinar. So what that means, which is fantastic. The downside of that is that it does mean that we won't be able to do individual questions today, but 2 things. One is that, we're here for you right now. We are, as of tomorrow, the Hendrie group will all be working from home, doing our little bit for social distancing, but it will still be business as usual for us. We still are here for you. You just let us know if you need us. The other thing is that we're talking about, we haven't quite worked out what it's going to look like yet, but we are talking about creating some kind of online business hub to be able to help you through this period of really unsettling. Yeah, unsettling.
And I think
period.
that's important because the information is changing so fast.
So rapidly.
So not just the coronavirus, but in terms of the stimulus packages and what the government's prepared to do in terms of the billions and almost hundreds of billions now that they've pledged. So.
That's right, and we've just had a very, very good message about we need to separate to comply with the social distancing policy. Thank you very much. That's hilarious.
We're doing that at home.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, Mick and I are partners at home as well as in business. So yes, we're very close. All right, so what we want to achieve today is give you as much as we know about the government stimulus package, and because that's what we're getting most questions around, and also give you a bit of the how, because the what's great, but we want to give you a little bit of a how. And as I said before, we'll at least touch on the 6 things that you need to be focusing on right now. So well, let's start off by, Mick, do you want to give people the lowdown on the government stimulus today?
So this is where I get to take over the talking, and Karen does love a good talk, but this is where I get to say my bit. So the important thing is around the $100,000 or up to $100,000 in government assistance. Getting a lot of calls and probably confusing information around the $100,000. So the government's essentially offering assistance to support small business through the coronavirus and the cash flow challenges and help retain their employees. So essentially, businesses who employ people get a credit up to 100% of their withholding tax, from a minimum of $20,000 to a maximum of $100,000. The amount will be based on how much you currently withhold for employees, as I said, to a maximum of $100,000. So the critical thing for those that may not withhold, you can receive up to you will receive a minimum of $20,000.
So what does that look like? Like, what do you mean by if you don't withhold?
So if you've got employees that are potentially casual and you don't have to withhold, but because they're below the tax-free threshold, you'll get $10,000 in the June quarter, and then you'll get another $10,000 in the October quarter. So you'll get a minimum of $20,000. So the $100,000 is essentially split into 2 parts. There's $50,000 that goes from March through to June, and then the additional $50,000 goes from July through to October. Now,
turn my phone off.
It's important you understand that, because the additional payment of $50,000 is no more than what happens in the June period from March to June. So, for example, if you withhold $20,000 from March to June, the maximum you'll get from July to October is $20,000. So it's basically to encourage employers to retain their employees. So if you happen to employ post that period, then you will, increasing your employees, then you won't get more than what you got in the June period. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So it's important to note it's a maximum of $50,000 from March to June of PAYG withheld.
Write that down.
Write that one down.
And yes, Mark, definitely get to that
we'll
one.
We'll get to that one. So anything prior to the March 2020 month or quarter, depending on whether you are monthly or quarterly lodgers, does not count. So how much you receive will be dependent on the size of your payroll. Larger employers may use the $50,000 in the first assessment, which is the March BAS or activity statement. And as monthly lodgers, PAYG lodgers are receiving 300%, yes, 300% of the March monthly withholding. So if you withhold $15,000 in the March month, you will get $45,000 when you lodge the March BAS.
You need to turn your phone off too.
So that is the critical thing there. But monthly lodgers will get 300% of that March month. And it's also important to understand it's being delivered through the ATO PAYG system or the activity statement. So you have to lodge your activity statements to be able to get the credit. So they're making you lodge your activity statements to be able to get that credit. So you cannot claim it without lodging your BAS.
Just stop for a second. I have a little bit, I've got one person at least saying it's a bad connection at the moment. If we do drop out, if anything happens here, this is all being recorded and we will send everyone a copy of the recording tomorrow. Yeah, okay.
And I think the demand on the internet from everyone working at home is playing up. So we'd like to affect that, but we can't. So you cannot claim the credit without lodging your business activity statement. Now, there's been a question about the $10,000, and Karen did touch on that. If you do not withhold PAYG but have employees and you are registered, and this is the critical point, at the 12th of March as an employer, so you can't just suddenly register now and try and get $10,000. You had to be registered as an employer on the 12th of March. And you didn't have to withhold, for example, because your employees were below the tax-free threshold, you will get $10,000 in the period of lodging the BAS, which will generally be to March. So,
but you won't get 300% on that 10,000,
no,
will you?
You won't get 300% because generally you'll be a quarterly lodger because you're not withholding enough to be a monthly lodger. So there's a lot of questions around, do I get cash or not? The 20 to 100,000 is delivered as a credit to your tax account, to your GST and PAYG account.
Come on, they're not silly, right?
That's the way they're going to deliver it because you're going to have to lodge your BAS. Now, if you have any other tax debt, it will be credited against the account. So therefore, if you owe PAYG, GST, it will come off that debt. So, but if you have no debt, then you'll get a refund. So that's important for the $10,000 minimum that you'll get in the June period and the October period.
So if you owe $5,000 in tax debt, you will only get $5,000 credit.
Correct. Yep. So if you haven't paid $5,000 in GST from let's say the December period, and you get your minimum of $10,000, you'll only get $5,000 back. So that's important to know. Quarterly lodgers, you'll receive the first credit in the March BAS lodgement. As I said, it's a minimum of $10,000, and the balance will be in the June because clearly you're a quarterly lodger, assuming you haven't used the $50,000 in that March lodgement. Now, the monthly lodgers, as I've touched on, this is really interesting. The first credit will be 300%, and yes, thanks, Mark, of the amount of PAYG withheld in that March 2020 batch up to $50,000 maximum. So if you withhold $20,000, for example, in the March month and you're a monthly lodger, 3 times that, 300% is $60,000. You will only get $50,000 and you will still owe, you won't owe, but the $50,000 is credited to your tax account. Now, if that produces a refund because your GST is $10,000, then you will get a $40,000 cash refund, if that makes sense.
Cash refund or credit?
Cash.
Okay.
Because you have no other tax debt other than the $10,000 GST. So it's 3 times that monthly withheld. So that's critical. And again, if you don't use your $50,000 at a month as a monthly lodger, you will then be able to use the balance in April, May, or June BAS lodgement. Now, that's probably going to be a few questions around that, and you're probably doing the maths. You know, if you don't have any tax debt, you're probably thinking, if you're a monthly lodger, how do I get the 3 times and how do I get the cash? If you have no tax debt, you should get a refund credit to your account once you lodge the BAS.
Yeah, they're going to make you lodge that BAS. I think that was really clever of them.
Yeah, very smart. They're going to force lodgements, and right through to October. So there you go. We will be issuing a newsletter. There's a question there. I know we said we didn't have questions, but we already are preparing a newsletter,
a
fact sheet to get this information out in a condensed form, because it is 20 pages and a lot of detail.
Yeah, but we'll get a fact sheet to you for sure.
So that's to do with how you get up to your $100,000 refund. The next bit I want to cover is the temporary relief for financially distressed businesses. And this is important. Government's temporarily increasing the threshold which creditors can issue a statutory demand to a company or initiate bankruptcy proceeding against an individual. They're temporarily increasing that limit from $2,000 to $20,000. Clearly, they foresee a lot of businesses in financial stress. So the package is designed to temporarily relieve directors from any personal liability while trading insolvent, and providing flexibility in the Corporations Act to ensure that these unforeseen events don't result, in this crisis, to a
large level of bankruptcies
and
liquidations. Yeah, that makes sense.
Clearly, there will be some, depending on the size and scale of the business, and every individual circumstance will be different, and even company debt and even cash reserves. But they've raised that statutory limit and basically given an exemption while trading insolvent is the other term. So, if you think you're financially distressed and you're concerned that the coronavirus might tip you into trading insolvent and potentially have your personal assets exposed, there is an exemption for this short period.
And how are they doing that? Are they doing it case by case, or are they going to put in blanket?
It's a blanket legislation relief. Okay. So enforced winding up, and even the tax office are not issuing what we call director penalty notices. So if you're not aware, if you haven't paid your PAYG and it's more than 3 months old, then you are technically personally liable for that debt with the tax office now. They were already in the process of adding GST to that legislation, but that's on hold. But they're basically saying the tax office will not be issuing personal director penalty notices for any PAYG that you might be personally liable now for, because it is 3 months old. So it really is trying to give some relief to distressed businesses and allow businesses to trade through this, as some people are quoting, once in 100-year event.
And look, it makes sense, doesn't it? It's sensible of the government to do this, because what's the alternative? The alternative is that as employers, we have to start standing people down. When that happens, where are those people going to go? They're going to go straight to Centrelink to see what they can get there. That's a really long-term problem for the government if that starts happening. Whereas if they can sort of stop the flow at our level as employers, then it's still going to be a burden on them, but it's going to be nowhere near the problem that we have if they start getting a really high rate of unemployment.
Yeah, and a raft of distressed businesses that are in liquidation. Tax office keeps issuing director penalty notices. This is really to give everyone a breather for 6 months, maybe longer, depending on what you believe is going to happen with the coronavirus. So it is, designed to give relief as the stimulus package is. The next key thing people want to know about, getting a lot of questions, is around support for cash flow, immediate cash flow support for SMEs, or small to medium enterprises. So under the coronavirus SME guarantee scheme, the government will provide a guarantee up to 50% of SME lenders to support new short-term unsecured loans to small to medium businesses.
Yeah, let's explain that one, because
this is where
this is going to be a lot of people are going to want to know about this.
I guess the scheme is a guarantee up to $40 billion of new lending. This will provide businesses with the funding to meet cash flow needs.
Like payroll.
Payroll, yeah. By further enhancing lenders' willingness to provide that credit. So we'll get to how you get the money. This will help assist otherwise viable businesses that wouldn't have been in this position without the coronavirus and the significant challenges that we're all going to face due to disrupted cash flow under the current obligations you may have.
Will there be any restrictions on what you can use the amount for?
No.
Okay, great.
As I understand it, and the challenge with this, and I might cover it now, is that you can go, and this is how you access it. You can access up to $250,000, as I said, 50% taxpayer-backed loan by applying to your bank.
So the taxpayer-backed, that's the guarantee.
That's the guarantee.
So if we default on our loans, the taxpayers will be angry.
Yes. We're all taxpayers, so we're all angry. So when you apply for the loan, it will be quick and efficient and access for small business lending. So
sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it?
This is very stark contrast to what we experienced before the coronavirus, where there was really stringent, strict, and almost draconian lending criteria to get any loans. So they are clearly cutting the red tape by providing a temporary exemption from the responsible lending guidelines that were being introduced so that lenders can provide credit to existing small business customers. So this reform will help small business get quick access to credit quickly and efficiently. So you apply to your bank. It's that simple. Up to $250,000.
The bank won't come to you. You've got to, you need to be able to get in contact. I think a lot of the banks are also, because they are being so overrun with telephone calls, they're even putting things up on their website that you can just start to apply over the worldwide interweb.
It's called the Coronavirus SME Guarantee Scheme. To answer a question, it is basically the Coronavirus Small to Medium Enterprise Guarantee Scheme lending. So you go to the bank and ask, if you go to your bank and say, look, I'd like to apply for the loan under the Coronavirus Guarantee Scheme, up to $250,000. Let's probably be aware that they're inundated right now. So it says quick and easy. I'm sure it will be 100 times compared to prior to the coronavirus, but it's certainly not going to be instant.
So start applying now if that's something that you want to do. Do you know, are they going to give you $250,000 or
cash?
Yeah, no, what I mean by that is, are there going to be any restrictions? So how are they going to assess? Are they going to just let anybody have $250,000, or is it still going to be a bit of a bank assessment?
No, there's no bank assessment, and this is where we start to get tricky because there is no detail. I've said to a few clients I've met over the last couple of days,
at this stage,
there just clearly is no detail. It's 50% government backed, but there's no indication on, it's 0% interest, right? So that's another win. But there's no indication on when repayments will start, what the term will be.
Because that'll probably be bank by bank.
It might start in 3 years, might start in 6 months. Nobody has an idea right now. And the devil will always be in the detail to quantify, Linda. But there is no detail.
And be aware though, yes, Linda, the devil is always in the detail, but in this particular instance, it is in the government's best interest for us as business owners to keep moving and to keep employing.
And not fail.
So they're going to be, they're not going to put up too many barriers.
No.
Yeah.
To answer a message, even though we said we wouldn't answer messages.
I thought you were saying that to me. Oh, but yes,
there is no interest, so there is no margin, because I guess what the government's doing with this is they're using the banks to lend the money on behalf of the government.
Yeah.
And the government is issuing it at 0%.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So I think.
But yeah, you can get a loan to cover company credit card debt.
Yes, I would look at do a forecast. I think we cover this maybe potentially today. If we don't, we're going to run out of time. I can do that already.
I'm not going to get to my bit.
You're not at all.
That's all right.
So I think
we can deal,
because this is very serious measures based on cash flow requirements. I think look at your lending requirements. Don't just go and get a loan for 250,000 if you only require 100,000. That could be a problem, and the devil is in the detail. And therefore, you could find yourself, okay, you might have got through the crisis and you spent the money and and buy a nice car. Sorry, I've read a message. But
Yes,
then you'll
Mark
have a problem.
Anderson. Great to see that he's still got a sense of humour, because being a cafe owner, that is awesome, Mark, that you're still able to keep a sense of humour. He wants to buy a Stingray and be in a game.
Most people are responsible financially, so borrow as much as you need financially with a buffer, I'm suggesting. Because the devil is in the detail on how, when, and how often you'll have to make those repayments.
And it is a loan. It is not a gift.
Yep.
So this is not a government, free gift. It is absolutely a loan.
I'd like to know who general manager is.
Yeah,
In any event,
who's general? It's coming out as general manager. We need to know you are. It's very funny.
We need to move on.
Yep. Damien. Hi, Damien.
Temporary. Nice one, Damien. Temporary release of super. It's not technically a business issue, but you might want to access up to $10,000 no tax out of your superannuation fund. So individuals can access $10,000 and it won't be counted for Centrelink or Veterans Affairs, depending on your age, in the 2020 year, the one we're in now, and the 2021 year. So technically that is $20,000. If you have some personal hardship, you can access. So when we have a saying, what is it? It's business, it's personal, right? Yep. So they're intertwined. So most people have business obligations and personal obligations, houses, investments, whatever. So you may need that to fund your your personal debt. So just consider that as business owners.
So with the other things, so the $250,000 loan, the credits you're going to get from on your BAS, from your payroll, can that be used? Like, could you buy an AMG?
Yes, but we're not answering that.
So you could.
You could.
I'm just trying to work out. Is there any restrictions?
There's no restrictions. There's no problem with how you use it. It's defined as cash flow and business requirements.
But your team members might be a little bit upset if you rock up in a, what's the car I like? Aston Martin.
Right, so you can borrow the money and buy a car if you like and claim it, because they've also increased the immediate write-off from $30,000 to an astronomical $150,000. Wow. But clearly they're also trying to encourage the investment. So if you have enough, in my language, risk appetite to borrow to buy some equipment, you can claim it outright up to $150,000. That would not be an AMG at $150,000 because you have a cost limit of around $60,000, to be very clear. And this is general advice. So the next step, because we're trying to make this a bit interesting. They're also supporting apprentices and trainees. I know a few callers do have apprentices. They're subsidising up to $50,000 for a trainee's wage for 9 months, starting 1 January through to 30 September 2020, to retain apprentices. So basically they will pay 50% of their wages, up to a $21,000 per apprentice or a trainee per quarter. So it's basically $7,000 a quarter per apprentice. So that's designed to obviously keep trainees and apprentices employed. 50%, you've got to argue whether you can still afford the other 50%. So that's the challenge. Same with employment. You've got to actually afford the net amount of pay, because you're now not paying the PAYG up to $100,000 potentially. So it's designed to support up to 70,000 small businesses who employ around 117,000 apprentices. So I want to give you a bit of a summary. I do want to give Karen some airtime, because otherwise
we have to live together, and
social distancing will really take effect at home.
And as Kingsley's rightly pointed out, I'm not getting an AMG or an Aston Martin, so I better get a little bit of airtime. But I think a summary would be really good at this stage. And as we said before, we will put all this information into a fact sheet for you, and we're only a phone call or a Zoom meeting away.
Some funny. Right, summary. All banks are offering different options. So you need to be in touch with your bank. Everyone is doing the same thing. So you need to be in touch sooner rather than later. They're all running off to the banks because there is no responsible lending up to $250,000, and every bank is offering slightly different things. You can get what I would call a 6-month pause on loans. So I'll cover two things here. Most are offering an initial 3 months and then review it in 3 months. So that's why everyone says 6 months. So you can basically contact your bank if you're a personal customer. We're all, as I said, business and personal customers generally. We have personal home loans or investment loans. Personally, you can contact your bank under financial hardship and get a 3-month, let's call it, deferral of no loan repayments on your home loans, your credit cards, and some are doing personal loans. With businesses, and I'll use NAB as an example, and also CBA. NAB's offering up to an overdraft of $50,000 for business customers. So that's different from the $250,000, but that will come with strings attached and repayments. So devil in the detail, don't have time to go through that. They're offering deferral of business cards. So again, 6 months. They're offering deferral. CBA, for example, is offering automatic. I heard from a broker client, automatic commercial loans such as hire purchases and any commercial loans, just an automatic 6-month deferral. So you may have a loan for an AMG that's in existence right now that they are just pausing for 6 months. So be in touch with your bank. Everyone's offering slightly different on a personal level and a business level. They are different.
Yeah. And Tanya, thank you. You've rightly pointed out there too that for sole traders, there is going to be a payment of $550 per fortnight. I think even it could even be more than that, especially if you've got New Start. You can also apply for New Start. So I think I worked it out. I can't remember the exact details. We've been mobilising our team to all work from home, but I worked out that sole traders with the payment plus the New Start, you're going to be looking at probably around $1,100 per fortnight that you'll be eligible for. So yeah.
Got a question about personal investment loans. Yes, it will depend on your bank. As I said, every bank is different. You need to really be in touch with them and ask what they're offering. As a general rule, pretty much they're all saying 3-month deferral because they're aware of what's going to happen when we come out of this. It's not like you don't not pay the 3 or 6 months. It's added to the term of your loan. So there's going to be slightly more additional interest costs based on whatever prevailing interest rate will be at the time, but it's going to be added to the loan when we start making repayments again, assuming you got the 3 or 6 month deferral. So banks are being very generous. As I said, NAB's offering $50,000, deferral on credit cards, overdraft, as I said. So really be in touch. And the government has cut through the red tape of responsible lending, which was such a big thing and nobody could get a loan virtually before the coronavirus. So that extensive credit criteria has just basically been waived if you access 50% of this government-backed loan. I'd suggest you think and do some planning around the $20,000 to $100,000, 100% not paying your PAYG withholding. And that's essentially making sure you maximise in the June period, because whatever you get in the June period, that's all you're going to get in the October period from July to October. So there are some planning opportunities around that. So practically, lodge your BAS as soon as possible to get the credit, get the refund if you don't owe any other money. Credit's not going to do anything. You're just not going to pay. You're going to look at your BAS and go, okay, I owe $50,000, $10,000 it's GST and $40,000 withholding. All you're going to do is pay 10, and you might then get the $40,000 refund because you have no other tax debt. But if you have a $40,000 tax debt, you're not going to get a thing. So perhaps be in touch with us as your accountant, and if we're not your accountant, be in touch with us.
But can I say on that though, because of this, there is going to be a massive run on people are suddenly going to be super keen to lodge their BAS. So if you get in early, the earlier that you get your stuff to us, the better.
Yep. And contact your bank for your 3 months deferral on loans and get as much, not as much, portion that, get as what credit you think you need based on, your current cash reserves, your forecast of current income and your overheads. Karen's going to touch on some stuff because we have 10 minutes potentially, but we may have to do another webinar on this. And I would also, as a thought, perhaps if cash flow is really hard, consider not paying some of your tax office debt if cash flow is really tough. They're being very lenient. They've moved from a high collection. I won't say what I was going to say. They've gone from a very high collection organisation to pausing collections right now. So I just think of ways, be in touch with us as your advisors to think of ways to be creative around preserving cash for as long as possible.
Look, I just want to jump in for a moment here. And it's not usually me holding you back, it's usually the other way around.
Yeah.
This webinar comes with a big disclaimer. It is general advice only. We are not telling you to not pay your tax. That is something I would suggest you speak to your accountant about specifically. Obviously, this is general advice today. We're just giving you what we know, but your specific circumstances is something that you need to speak to your specific accountant about. But yeah.
And then the next one would be payroll tax. Every state is different, what they're offering. Other states, unlike Victoria, are offering credits for utilities. New South and Queensland are. Most of us don't operate there or live there. So it's no use. But in terms of Victoria, they are offering, if your payroll is less than $3 million, you will not pay payroll tax for this financial year. So basically 1 July right through to June, you still have to lodge your payroll tax. But if your payroll is below $3,000, you are about to, starting the 27th of March, which is a couple of days away, they're going to start refunding what you've already paid. So that could be a significant sum of money too. I know I've looked at it for our business based on our wage bills. So we're expecting a nice chunk of money. But look at your payroll. If you're grouped, it's a group number. So, don't think it's...
We've explored that.
You don't think it's just each company is $3 million. It's your group, as in what's being assessed as a group from the state payroll office, state revenue office. So look at that.
A lot of business owners are going to come in under that.
Yeah, and factor that into your cash flow requirements because you're paying no payroll tax for this financial year. So that's the other thing that's come out yesterday. So it is moving daily. I think I'm done.
Yeah. No, look, I think too that it's probably better for me not to start on my part. I think what you've done there is so good. I don't want to try and rush my bit into the next into 5 minutes. What I think I would rather do is do it justice over another webinar. And as I mentioned at the start, I really feel, especially looking some of the comments that we've got, some of the questions that we've got, some feedback, is that this maybe something like this quite regularly would be quite beneficial. So we'll think about how we can work out some sort of, maybe like a little business hub or something like that we can do. We feel
passionate about helping you get through. So don't, one thing off the cuff, sorry, Karen, I butted in, I'm pretty good at that. Don't think we're going to click the clock to give you advice on this. This is a critical stage to get you through this. I would suggest, and I've had a good question, if you think you've got enough cash reserves to get you through, I'm not sure what your forecast says, but I think you really need to look at not just 6 months, 12 to 18 months effect. So be ultra conservative. And by that I mean, if you think 6 months you're going to run out of cash, and this is basically basically a once-off deal, and let's say, and we don't know when the government-backed loans will end. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
I suspect when $40 billion runs out, that's when it runs out.
Yeah.
So take advantage of it. Really do it.
You don't have to use it.
No, it is 0%. It's not like it's costing you anything.
Yeah, that's
if
what
you sit it in a bank account, have it there as reserves. I think that would be critical, rather than just go, I think I can ride this out, right? I'm not sure anybody, if I'm being frank, can think they're going to ride this out, because it is changing so rapidly. Should you pay supplier invoices or put it on a loan?
That's what I was going to talk about today, Mark.
Well, I would think that you would
prioritise them.
Potentially borrow. Look at your forecast. That's the thing we need to do. Really look at it, at least a short and a medium range forecast, meaning 6 months to 2 years. Assuming the doors do shut, we potentially could go into full lockdown. Then you're going to have minimum overheads such as rents, things like that. So you really need to do a long range forecast to get that fund, have those funds available to keep the doors open. If you don't use it, awesome for you. You just give it back, depending on what the devil is in the detail.
Hendrie, you know what person you just asked? No. Okay. Look, I think I'm just thinking now too, Nick, that maybe something that we need to be able to maybe look at the Hendrie group is, because I think it's not just about getting this stuff. It's what impact will it have for your business? How long will the money last? How long do you need to make some other decisions now to make that money last as long as possible? And doing the forecasting, I think there's never been a better time to do some forecasting. So maybe we look at, maybe we'll come up with a specific service that we can run around that for people to be able to give you an idea of, okay, you've got all those entitlements, but what is it going to actually do for you?
And I think also factor in extended terms. By that I mean, if your customers generally pay you, let's say in 30 days, depending on your business and what type of business it is, I think you've got to start thinking of 60 or 90 days, right? Factor that into your forecast, because it's not just going to be standard. It's just a snowball effect that we're going to experience. So I just think you need to be ultra conservative. Our tendency as humans is to probably be a little bit optimistic on, let's say, revenue targets, sales targets, and maybe even overheads. So I would really pare that back and really be ultra conservative in your 6 to 2 year forecasts.
So I guess let's wrap up shortly. I'm hoping that today has been really valuable for you. If you do think that doing something regularly would be valuable, just if you can throw a yes in the chat box, then we'll know if we get enough interest, we'll look at doing something. Because what we were talking about then, we should do we could do a whole session on that. And I'd also like to be able to open up a little bit more to individual questions a little bit more as well. We will send you a recording of today's webinar. You'll get that tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. We're really mindful at the moment that it's a tough time for businesses, and most businesses aren't going to get through this unscathed. But what I do believe is, and this is something I'm really passionate about, is we can be better businesses on the other side. Our competitors are going to have their heads in the sand a lot at the moment, and there are things that you can be doing now to make sure that you are first in line when things turn around. So want to be able to cover some things off on that as well. You are not on your own. One of the team members asked me before, because I'll just be honest, I've been living on very little sleep since. I haven't. He's still been fine, but I've been living on very little sleep. And somebody asked me how I was feeling, and you know what I said? I said, I'm feeling awesome. And the reason for that is because I'm feeling really valuable at the moment, that I'm able to be prepared, for helping my clients get through one of the most difficult periods that they may ever face in business. I feel very blessed that I have the skills and the training to be able to help at a time like this. So you're not on your own. We're here if you need us. In the meantime, we wish you all the very, very best in these unique times. We'll be in touch again very soon. We'll send you the recording tomorrow, and we'll have a bit of a chat about how we might be able to provide some sort of business online community in this time of social distancing. So
yes,
all
I think,
right.
and mark this one down, please, because it's not often I speak through the whole webinar. Right?
Oh,
So
no,
I hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully it was informative. I think the feedback says it was. So great stuff.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us. And look, thank you for the feedback, and thank you also for the humorous comments, because that does actually, it's helpful in a time like this. Yes, we have to be serious, but if we can keep our mindset a little bit positive as well, that can make a difference. And that actually really, it's really great for us as well. So we are so lucky. We have legendary clients out there. We are going to help you guys through this, and we'll be in touch again real soon. But for now, you can go off and start applying for your loans.
I'm not getting an AMG, but thanks.
All right, guys, you have a wonderful time, a wonderful evening, I was going to say, and I will speak to you again really, really soon. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.